It's not about the likes, it's not about the comments, it's about how you show up when somebody looks up your brand. No matter what, make sure before you go to location number 2, you've operated your first one for at least 3 years. So you have to always find a way to modernize your brand, stay up with the times, and just make sure you aren't giving guests that reason to not visit.
All right, thanks for tuning in on a second episode about top 10 mistakes that restaurateurs or restaurants make in the industry. We've covered the first 5 topics in a previous episode. Today we're going to cover 6 through 10. We're here with Kendall Ware. He's ran smaller businesses, restaurants, all the way to big brands. He is currently the CEO of Walk-Ons, running that brand in a table service environment, I believe. So we'll get into it with Kendall, and we're going to cover the next 5 biggest mistakes that restaurants are making in the restaurant industry. So without further ado, Kendall, let's pick the topic back up. We talked about the first 5. If you want to actually give us a quick summary of the first 5, and then we'll get into the next 5 that we're talking about today. So if you want to give us a quick summary of that, go ahead. Just
sure.
Bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4.
So far we covered location, right? Poor management of overall financials, not having an operational structure set in stone, understanding your role. And then we dove into lack of systems and procedures. And then we spent some time on how to prevent inconsistent quality within your restaurant.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get into the first topic of the day. So today we're going to cover point number 6. What's the 6th biggest mistake?
Ineffective marketing.
All right, so
this might be a couple episodes, but we'll dial this in. So ineffective marketing.
I'm still trying to figure this out myself, so I'm gonna, let's get into it.
It's tough because, again, if you have one restaurant and you're the owner and the operator, your hands are full. Between financials, operating the business, guest complaints, and now you're trying to also market your business, it's tough. But what happens is people are going after ineffective ways that haven't been proven out for their model. And in a lot of cases, people ignore social media. Believe it or not, social media is so common, but there is no immediate return. And so when people put in work of posting a video about a recipe or a new product or an LTO, and they see 1, 2, maybe 4 people liked it, they get discouraged. And they say, oh, this is not worth my time. I'm not a social media influencer. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not about the likes. It's not about the comments. It's about how you show up when somebody looks up your brand. How do you show up in the eyes of the consumer? If I go to someone's page right now and there's 1 post and my eyes just go to that 1 post and there's only 3 likes, then it's a different story. If I go to your page and there's just endless scrolls of videos and pictures and your team members and community events, I don't care about the likes and comments. I'm just intrigued now with your brand. And so it should be a consistent schedule where you are just posting 3, 4, 5 times a week for your brand just to show up. That's step 1. Outside of that, you got to figure out brand awareness. How are you going to actually build up your brand in that community that you're serving? And that can't just be through social. You got to start tying into the preachers, the teachers, the coaches. Like, you got to get ingrained in that community and make a name for yourself so people start to recognize you and the brand that you're associated with. But usually it's just a lack of awareness where people don't know you're open.
Yeah, and that's a really tough topic. But if you're not there, if you don't show up, you're not going to win.
Right.
So you got to show up, you got to do this stuff. And it can't be, I think on a social media thing, a lot of restaurants are just posting random stuff. But there's so much creative stuff that you could do, especially now, like, film the back of the kitchen when it's there's a show that's about, like, the hell that breaks loose in the kitchen on Friday night at dinner rush, right? So, like, people kind of relate to that too. So, and I think the social media stuff, it's not so much of a guest acquisition as much as just kind of brand awareness, being out there, etc. And you'll pick up, if you do great pictures and like do really good job on that stuff, like you could just grab your iPhone and do portrait pictures and post those on and be like, oh wow, that looks amazing. Next time I'm in the area, I'll try it. So, it's hard to measure the impact of that, but you should still be there. That's where your consumers are. That's where your guests are. So if you're not there, then
And in that same line, a lot of smaller restaurants or new restaurants, and even some big franchises have limitations on this. They ignore or stay away from 3PD. So any third-party delivery platforms like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, they stay away from those, and the answer is always the same if you ask them why. Oh, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
They take 30% of my margin. Oh, they take 25% of my margin. And they're not focusing on what really matters. I stopped looking at 3PD platforms as a delivery of food service a long time ago. It is a simple marketing investment. You are building brand awareness by being on those platforms. Sure. And you got to think about that. If I'm hungry, most people, and all the studies have proved it, most people, when they go to an app, they don't know what they're trying to get yet. Yeah. They're figuring that out as they're scrolling. They want to see what's available, who has offers, who's coming to mind, and they make their decision based upon who shows up, right? So if that's the case and you're this new brand who nobody knows yet, your best chance of building brand awareness and getting in front of eyeballs is being on every delivery platform you possibly can, whether it's a national one or one of those local ones that come out all the time, right?
I agree.
Either way, be present and ignore the expense. If you want to adjust your menu pricing to cover it, fine, but focus on driving the awareness, but driving more people to your restaurant. Yeah. And of course, with every order that you serve through a third-party platform, staple or put something in the bag that is a loyalty program sign up or come in for a certain % off, like draw them into your brand, acquire that guest, right? Don't let all these partners own all that data and keep all those guests on your behalf. Eventually find a way to draw them in. Yeah. And over time, it's awareness and it's traffic.
That's a hot topic.
Went a little off there, but that's part of the marketing side. Yeah.
That's amazing because, we've done an episode on 3PD. I agree 100%. Like, look, yeah, they charge you 30%, but who cares? 10% of it is marketing, right? 20% is their cut for actually driving traffic to you. There is a cost to do that. And I learned this from you, but you always say, don't cost yourself out of business, right? Don't continuously try to save money. There is absolutely a limit to saving money. You're only going to get to zero. Right. But if you, on the top side, there is no ceiling. You could keep driving more traffic and continuously increase sales. At a restaurant, you'll eventually hit a cap, but that's not the point. The point is use them for marketing, use them to build brand awareness. We both know Wade Allen and Pankaj, and at Brinker, they rolled a $170 million brand only on 3PD. Right. It was strictly on 3PD. Yep. That was it. No online ordering on their side, nothing. And this is a big brand. This is a brand with 1,600 sites or something. Right. So if they're able to do that, then yeah, don't argue over the cost. Just pay them and move on. So that's another marketing stuff. But we definitely need to get into more of this marketing.
This will be a good topic for future episodes. But the one other thing I'll throw in there is don't underutilize the guest experience itself. So forget about the billboards and the 3PD. Forget about everything for a second. Just provide the best guest experience you possibly can, and that's the best source of marketing you're going to have within your own four walls.
Agreed. Yeah, get them to post about you. Give them a reason to post, so that way they posted on your behalf and tag you, right. And now their followers are seeing you. So, and funny topic, a story on that. We have a customer in downtown Dallas that put a sign there. Restaurants around bees, and they put no money, no honey. So anyway, and then everybody wanted to take pictures on there, so they made it into a thing. So, and then one time,
Instagrammable moments.
One time, a person from Instagram, 2 weeks in, made a post, and she had 200,000 followers, and they just got flooded. And it's we weren't prepared for that traffic. Yeah, it changes overnight. Yeah. So. All right, ineffective marketing, we won't spend too much time. Let's get into the next topic and figure out what the next one is, because we'll really drill down on this. But we've done a lot of stuff on that too. We've talked about loyalty before. We've talked about customer data platform, marketing automations. I think the restaurateurs there's so much involved that they haven't been able to get to that stage yet, but things are changing and things are absolutely moving in that direction. Right. And I think in the next couple of years, we'll start seeing a lot more personalized marketing out there especially around guest retention, which is where I'm a big advocate of. But what's the next topic?
The next topic is avoiding or lack of technology.
Okay.
Right, in general. Sure. And it goes back to these same conversations. It's usually the cost that scares people away. So they say things like, I can't afford that, not realizing what a piece of technology could actually generate in revenue for their business, or the traffic it could drive, you name it, the cost it could cut on your behalf. But people avoid it when they're smaller And then they always talk about, hey, when I get to 5 units, I can afford that. Or it doesn't matter how many units you have, you need some of these things. And we've talked about this, but the guests around you are being trained on how a restaurant interacts with them.
Sure.
And if everybody around you is doing something that you're not, it draws negative attention to your concept, and you will stand out in that negative way. And people will, over time, stop visiting your restaurant because it's not as convenient, it's not user-friendly, like it's not fun for their kids. There's going to be some reason that makes them think, yeah, they're not modern day, they're not up with the times, they're probably going to be out of business soon. Like, it just creates a negative perception. So you have to invest in the technology in the beginning for areas that can truly impact the business that you have. I'm not saying go out there and sign up for every bell and whistle.
Sure.
That's not smart. But what do you need? Right? You need a loyalty program. That's one. You're going to need some sort of cost management back office system. You're going to need something to do the basic elements of your business. So don't ignore it. But also, people think that because they're not a big brand, they can't have the same technology as others, which is not true, right? So I think people are nervous about it, so they avoid it, and they don't realize that it's actually costing them more money to not have some of these systems and access points than it is to invest in them.
Yeah, and again, technology is cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a prime example of that, I mean, Uber, DoorDash, like these guys are able to charge 30% because they have a super solid marketing technology platform built to drive traffic. Right. So they're able to make it work. And yeah, you know, even for you as a small, like, if you just have one location or if you have 10 locations, you have to get that technology properly fitted into your operation so you don't have to work 90 hours a week to accomplish what somebody is doing in 30 hours. Right. And technology has changed the landscape big time. Even for us, we're a tech company and we do the same thing. And the number one thing I always ask is like, all right, it's 10 grand to do this. Okay, what's the ROI?
What's the return? Yep.
And I think a lot of restaurateurs are just going in blindly and saying, okay, that, and then they write it off as an expense. Yeah. And I think the conversation has to completely change. Anything that you put in has to increase sales first.
Yeah.
And then if it can't increase sales, it better save some money somewhere. Sure. Or make you more efficient. That's right. And if it does all three, then you should be all in. But if it doesn't, if it increases your cost, if it makes you more efficient and it increases revenue, that's all in. You should do that. But okay, great. So technology, we'll drill into this on a future episode, and we'll get more into that. Let's get into the next topic or next mistake that's made after this.
When it comes to marketing your brand, you have to really figure out what makes you different. What are you going to leverage that you can say you own? Is it a menu item? Is it a type of experience? What is it about your brand that helps you stand out from the rest that you can go all in on?
Yeah.
To back that up, there's got to be a story behind it, right? So let's say that you have a typical restaurant where there's a lot of maybe freezer to fryer options, it's out of the box stuff, but there's one thing you're making by hand. You're hand rolling something, you're prepping mom's pizza sauce recipe. If there's something special you're doing, own that, but make sure that you have a story to back it up that's going to help consumers identify with it or connect with it and make you appear different than the average restaurant. So always find that one thing that's going to make you stand out.
That makes sense. And actually, I'm going to add something to the consistency of food. So, and by the way, on the food consistency side, like McDonald's is a prime example. Like you go to every single location, it's exactly the same, almost regardless of what country you go to, right? So that's why people go there. Maybe the quality is not the best thing out there, but it's consistent. You know what you're gonna get.
Right, you know what to expect.
Absolutely, and I think Chipotle got a huge leg up from everybody else by being owned by McDonald's and by being trained from the best of here's how you do it. Here's how you have consistent flow no matter which one you go to. And obviously you can see the growth that they've had and they've knocked it out of the park. You following the same methodology that McDonald's had made.
Sure.
All right, so let's get into the next one, next topic. What is the next mistake that we're going to cover today?
The next topic is overexpansion. So trying to have too many locations before you're ready for them. No matter what, make sure before you go to location number 2, you've operated your first one for at least 3 years and you've been profitable. You figured it out, you got it dialed in. your systems, your standards, your marketing efforts, everything is figured out. Then go find that second location, because now you know what to look for. You know what overhead's going to be like. You know what the pain points are going to be. You're going to learn from all those past mistakes, right? And what happens though is people hit success early on and they think, oh, I had to have more.
Yeah.
And they'll start popping them up all over their community, which yes, it is a smart strategy to go into a market and start to penetrate quickly, where you have, hey, I have 5 locations coming in 2 years. Yeah, that'd be great. But is there a market demand for it? Are there actual guests in an area that you're identifying or targeting that are even asking for your concept? Sure. Those who visit today, are they coming in and saying, man, I can't wait for you to put one on this side of town so I don't have to drive 30 minutes? Listen to those cues, and if that's happening, that's going to help guide you down the path. But usually, honestly, the ego gets in the way, where it's more about how many locations I can get versus where should I strategically place a location where there's an actual guest demand that I can afford. So sometimes people they're just not ready to have that expansion. And so they go fast, and we've all seen the story. You open up a lot of locations and then you close a lot of locations, and people always wonder what happened.
Yeah, I agree.
You grew before you were ready.
Yeah, and then look, at the end of the day, who cares how many locations you have? Are they profitable?
Just do well.
Yeah, even in tech companies that has happened over, like everybody was like all about growth, growth, growth. Let's get to the next valuation, next round, next funding stuff, etc. And then now it's all focused about profitability. I don't care how big the company is. All I care about is, because ultimately at the end of the day, you're trying to make a profit. Right. So if you have 100 locations and you make no money, I would take 3 locations at 3 locations, I'm making more than you who has 100 locations. Right. And it's like, oh my God, why would you do that? And
again, more locations, more problems, which also means there's going to be more overhead and talent to help support it.
Training.
There's a lot that goes into it, right? But that's okay if your brand is ready for it. But that's why I say minimum 3 years. Like really make sure you understand this business you're about to expand. And then if you want to go rapid past that, fine, as long as you're doing it the right way. But people
and if
just
you have
go
a ton
too
of
fast.
money, then put in 3-4 locations at once, and I've seen brands do that. And again, back to your point, it's a pretty smart thing to do if you can tolerate that risk and you have the right hand person, which we talked about.
And if you're a franchise, you can leverage the brand equity and the name.
Oh, absolutely, with that. Yeah, you could again do more market penetration, but over expansion, that kills profits. Yes. The number one thing that it does is if you're doing it very quickly, then it's the number one killer, I think, on the profit margins.
And I'll throw this in there, and we'll spend more time on it, but when people start to open up more restaurants, they naturally fall into that same concept of, well, I'm making money altogether, I'm still profitable, but they're not profitable by location. And it depends upon who the audience is for this discussion, right? If you're trying to sell the business, okay, maybe you're looking at it differently. But if you're really trying to dial in each restaurant, make sure that each of them are profitable and that you understand what it takes for each, because it shouldn't be the same for all, right? But I see this trap where it's like, I have 5, 2 make money, the 3 don't, but I'm okay.
Actually, it's funny because, so rob Peter to pay Paul. Same
exactly.
thing, like restaurant one is losing, exactly.
And so next thing you know, the management team of the good restaurants, their bonuses are affected, they're feeling, they're feeling like, hey, you're taking away my potential earnings. They get disgruntled, you start to lose headcount. You got to make sure that everything's treated separately. Behind the scenes, if that's all you care about, fine, but to your individual restaurants and how you manage the day-to-day, you got to make sure that it's fair and that each restaurant's treated.
I think that's a very great point. Even for us, that's the case. Because we looked at it overall, but now we look at it on an individual customer and an individual location. Right. So if we're signing up a customer and it's like, if this doesn't make a profit, then we kind of take a step back and be like, yes, overall we're profitable, but if we keep doing this and we keep losing money on each individual location, guess what? It's going to trickle up, and then it leads to not being profitable.
And it goes back to P&L management, right? Managing the cost, doing the inventories. Like, make sure you understand how each unit's actually performing so you know how to impact it. If you're looking at it holistically, you don't know where the problems are. You don't know what team you need to go spend more time on or what resource you should invest in. So it's always important, no matter how big you get, just look at it restaurant by restaurant.
Yeah, so let's get into the next topic after this growth phase. So don't overexpand too quickly before you're ready. Make sure you're profitable. Make sure that you got your operation. Make sure you got the first 6 or 7 things that we've already talked about. What's the next topic?
The next topic is failure to adapt. this could touch back on technology, it could touch on trends that are happening, but failure to adapt. And this is usually why brands stay a certain size. They focus solely on, you know, protecting that brand they had, protecting that recipe they had, and they never got with the times.
Sure.
They never adapted to what was changing around them, and so they turned into something special that is now irrelevant, stagnant, and people are starting to forget about.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to always find a way to modernize your brand, stay up with the times, and just make sure you aren't giving guests that reason to not visit you. But failure to adapt, I mean, it's too common. It's sad to see, you know, something special that you may have visited 10 years ago, and now you wonder whatever happened, and they're still there, same location, struggling. It's just, it's tough to do, and yes, it's going to cost money, and yes, it means you're probably going to have to change something. But if you go back to our earlier topic, if you identify those non-negotiables from day one, where you know no matter what, I will never sacrifice X, then you know you can go focus on Y and everything else.
Sure.
And so I think people get stuck in their ways, they don't adapt, and then they start to become irrelevant.
Yeah, those are the core things that we're never going to change, but outside of that, everything else is up for grabs and everything else is up for negotiation.
And sometimes that's the concept itself.
Yeah. Oh, true, yeah.
Sometimes people think, well, I opened up with 10,000 square feet, so I have 20 units that are 10,000 square feet. Maybe today you can't do that anymore.
Exactly.
Maybe you have to have a fast casual version of your concept. Maybe you used to have a shop that had, I don't know, 2 ovens, but now you figure out a way there's a more efficient version to have 1, so you can limit the footprint and cut some costs. Like, you have to get dialed in based upon the times that we're living in. But a lot of people just start to copy and paste, which to some degree is great for consistency, but if they're copying, pasting, and the times have evolved around them, then you're becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, day to day, everything's going to change. I mean, look at us. If we had not changed or adapted, we'd still be riding horses.
Right. It's the same conversation in every industry and field. But again, the average restaurateur falls into that trap of thinking they figured it out, they're good, but then they never evolve as the years go on.
Yeah, actually that brings up a good point. I wonder how many restaurants that have been around in like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, how many are still around and what they've done. So that'd be a good, I got to do some research
how
on
they've
that
evolved.
See, how have they adapted, have they changed? And change is innovation. Like, again, and it's becoming more and more rapid. So you went through the industrial revolution that took whatever, 20, 40, 50 years, right? Then you got into the internet age and it happened over 30 years. And then you got into the .com stuff and things changed in a decade. Yeah. And then you got into the iPhone, that changed everything, right? And then now you're on the cusp of AI. So what you're seeing is that the times are shrinking. Changes are happening more rapidly, more quickly. And it's a freight train. It will come. Yeah. People will stop riding horses, you know? So if you stand in front of it, guess what? You'll be in a rear view mirror, and that's a big threat right now to business. And Simon Sinek says this thing, it's like the goal of business is to stay in business and not go out of business. So if you don't change,
keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Like, the goal is to stay in business, change, adapt, and move on to the next thing. All right, let's get into the next topic.
Okay. The last topic is legal and regulatory issues. And this gets pretty bad. I know many concepts and many brands, franchisees, owners who have had to close just because of mistakes, of things they did not know. They didn't want to invest in the legal fees up front. They didn't want to have an attorney. They didn't want to, pay anybody in the new community they opened up in to go do research. Like, they just missed some boxes. But to this day, I hear, I got a $40,000 bill because I didn't adjust my sales tax the right way in my POS system. Or
that's a big deal.
I didn't know I couldn't pay my people in cash, or like whatever ideas are out there, right? People increasing credit card percentage withholdings of team members' actual tips to cover credit card processing. And some areas that's a certain percentage that are regulated, some areas it's not. But just these nuances, and the most common is probably the sales tax side of this, or just not understanding what they legally can and cannot do.
And actually the sales tax is tricky because sometimes alcohol is taxed differently than food. So you can't tax them separately, and you have to sometimes pay them in 2 different entities.
And sometimes you're paying for something you shouldn't have been paying for to begin with, and so you're losing money that way.
Non-taxable too.
And so
again, I think what you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly.
And you're not going to know until somebody tells you you don't know. It's the unknown unknowns that really crush you.
That's right.
And we were talking to one of our team members yesterday. I'm like, look, the difference between us and somebody else is we know where to click.
Right.
We know which buttons to push.
Right.
They don't.
Exactly.
And because they don't know which buttons to push, they think that the underlying technology sucks.
Right.
And we were like, it's amazing. Same technology,
Sure.
two different points of view.
Sure.
Unknown. And here we know what to do, what not to do.
Right. So. And with this too, you get into the topic around your overall reputation. So how you handle your employees, right? How you're terminating people, what you're documenting versus what you're not documenting. If you handle somebody the wrong way, or for example, let's say you don't make payroll. Let's just say something happened, it wasn't intentional, an uncontrollable factor happened, you couldn't make payroll. How you handle that is going to determine the reputation that gets built.
Sure.
If you're like, oh, your fault, your problem, deal with it, I'll get to you in a week, it's going to create this bad social awareness around your brand that's going to be hard to recover from. And so now you are racking up more legal fees and you're going through lawsuits. It's just not, it's not sustainable. So you got to make sure that no matter what happens, you at least communicate it fairly and appropriately to the team, and you figure out the best way to address any public coming your way, any reporters, PR. Sometimes people are, the restaurant owner is so frustrated and overwhelmed, a reporter walks up and they say something very ignorant. Yeah. And they don't, accept accountability, and that just trickles. And usually, you see that location go out of business over time, right?
Especially now, like again, there's a lot of regulatory stuff happening, and with social media, everything is online.
Yeah.
So I was watching a video of this lady that got terminated from a big company, and she recorded the whole termination thing and put it online.
Yeah.
And it's like, so if you're trying to terminate somebody, don't, the legal ramification of that.
How you terminate is different in every single state in the city. There's certain forms that are required for some people. There's certain things you can and cannot fire for in some areas.
Documentation is a big deal, because we just terminated somebody, and it's like, hey, do you have all these documentations? Because they came back and it's like, hey, you terminated this person.
Right.
Here's like the things you got to do. So obviously, then they came back to me asking, hey, what documentations do you have? But I agree, the legal ramification. And again, that is a very tricky, that's a very slippery slope, because sometimes, again, most of the time, it's what you don't know, and you learn the hard way. So that experience.
And if you don't keep up with it, at least annually have somebody tell you the latest and greatest, or Google research the latest and greatest, because things change. And you may have been an operator in another state, so you're very comfortable, but in a new state, double check and just make sure you're fully aware of everything that you're responsible for.
Awesome, amazing. So this was a great topics around here. Again, even some of this stuff is resonating with me because I've been through that. I've made those mistakes, and those pain points have been resolved here. We learned the hard way. We didn't listen to somebody else. We didn't listen to a podcast. It's like, these are the 10 things you shouldn't do. So hopefully you guys found a ton of value in these 2 episodes, and stay tuned for more. Thanks.